Okay, we're on! Welcome to Miraculous University, everybody. Oh my gosh, I am actually so excited to see you guys here. I don't think you guys understand. I'm also just so happy that I can finally talk about this. Listen, I have been wanting to talk about this for ages because listen, this podcast, the idea of the podcast came up all the way in April. And then throughout May, I was planning this podcast and yeah, I kind of set June 1st as the date quite a while ago. So yeah, I've just been trying to get everything ready at this point, or by that point, I guess I should say. And we're finally here. And I literally cannot believe that. What? Like, what do you mean? What do you mean? What do you mean? Anyway, yeah, I've also been teasing it a lot within the past month. I think when I first started teasing it, no one was really getting the hints. I would say something or I would do something and then like no one pointed it out. So I was like, oh, okay. But more recently, people have been kind of talking about it, mainly because I think I've just been hinting at it more. There was like a video I posted and then of course, I mean, by the time I'm filming this, it's currently May 27th. So we haven't launched yet, but I did just recently post like the announcement for this podcast, or not the announcement, but like the announcement for the announcement to this podcast. And so a lot more people have been like aware of it and have been kind of theorizing about what it's about. And a lot of people have actually guessed a lot of stuff about this, which was kind of crazy to me, especially the name. I mean, it's so obvious because I was talking about a school and then I kept saying MU. So like, obviously you would kind of figure out that it's Miraculous University, but I don't know, anytime someone said Miraculous University, I was kind of taken aback. I was like, how do you know that? Anyway, but yeah, it's so crazy to be here. Oh my gosh. I was trying to think, is that like everything that I was gonna say? Y'all, one thing about this podcast is that not a lot of stuff is going to be planned out. I do have slideshows and I will be having probably a lot of slideshows for this podcast, but for the most part, I'm just sitting here yapping. So this may be quite all over the place and quite unhinged sometimes, but anyway, moving along though, welcome to class. Welcome to your first day of school, everybody. Oh my gosh, thank you to everyone that has enrolled. Literally, I feel like I've been so extra with this podcast. I've been doing too much and it's like just been the funnest time of my life. And I really hope that a lot of you guys have been having fun too. The application I made for this podcast hasn't gone up yet, but I'm really excited for that to go up and I really hope that a lot of people participate in that. Yeah, maybe if you guys did do the like application thing and you submitted your results, maybe we could do a podcast episode where we like go through the results or something. Anyway, I don't know, but yeah, I guess my main point is that I really hope that you guys have had a lot of fun with this. But moving along, for this episode, this isn't gonna be like an actual legit podcast episode like at the end of the day. At the end of the day. Sorry. Sometimes I just like can't speak correctly. But this is like, okay, it's like the introduction, kind of like, okay, think of this as like the first day of school, where you're not really doing anything, you're not really talking about whatever the class is about, you're just doing the icebreakers and the teacher's talking about who they are and what the class is about. That is like exactly what this episode is going to be, okay? It's like your very, very, very first day, so you can relax. Don't worry, there's no assignments, there's no nothing, but I will say, in true teacher fashion, I have a Google slideshow. So welcome to Miraculous University, everybody. Yeah, I'm just going to introduce myself and introduce kind of the podcast, kind of go through like what it's about and what we're going to be talking about, just like all of the basics that you need to know about this podcast in true teacher fashion. Listen, y'all cannot expect me to create a like school-themed podcast and not go all out, go full teacher mode, okay? Plus, like, everyone always says that I remind them of a teacher when I talk about Miraculous. I'm like, it's literally perfect. Anyway, we'll get into that later. But anyway, so first of all, hello, everybody. So a lot of you guys know me, right? A lot of you guys are coming from my other channel, or you may even be coming from my TikTok, or both. I don't know. But if you're not, hi. My name is Lizzie. Let's go to the next slide. I am a Miraculous Ladybug content creator and Zag influencer, or technically Miraculous Corp. They did change. It was Zag, but like now it's Miraculous Corp, but we're still like called Zag influencers. It doesn't really matter. Like it doesn't matter, but that is who I am. So yeah, I've been making content for 4.5 years. That is crazy. I actually started all the way back in January 2021. I started on actually the 17th. That is like a date that I forever have like drilled in my brain. January 17th, 2021, I started my first ever Miraculous account, and it was a TikTok account, and it was _adri.net _. So like Adrianette, but like with underscores and a dot in between. I probably didn't need to explain that. Anyway, so yeah, that was the first ever Miraculous account that I created, and it will forever be my baby. I love that thing to death because literally this podcast and literally anything I've ever done with Miraculous wouldn't be possible with that account. It's insane. Ugh, I'm gonna cry thinking about it. Anyway, in 2022 though, I started my first YouTube channel, and it was AdraXNet, which I still have to this day. I don't post on it a whole lot, but it's still up and I do post sometimes. I've been trying to get back into posting more on that, but girl, if you know me, you know I suck with uploading. Like, it's like practically my personality at this point. Anyway, that happened in 2022, and then in 2023 we branched out even more with 2 other accounts. So I started my reaction channel in April. So a lot of you guys probably come from my reaction channel or that channel, but oh my god, can I speak? If you don't come from that channel, it's called Miraculously Lizzie. We do episode reactions, and then I also created my Miraculous Instagram that year too, but I think I actually created it before the channel went up. I think I created my Instagram in March, and then I created like I said, I created my reaction channel in April. Anyway, that was created that year, and then I actually didn't start any new projects in 2024, but in 2025, unfortunately, in like March, I think my TikTok account got age restricted, so I ended up creating a completely different account, a new account, and yeah, that's the one that I've been posting on ever since then. And it's mainly because I literally submitted an appeal about my age. Girl, you could literally see my age, you could literally see that I was over the age of 18, and TikTok came back and they're like, actually you're still under the age of 16. We verified that. So my comments aren't on, I can't do it, I can't stitch, I can't save videos, I can't DM people, like, it's literally this whole thing. Basically, that account is just like in the trash. Anyway, I have this new account and we've been slowly building it back up, but yeah, that will probably end forever be my main account now. So a little sad just because like I started my whole content when it comes to Miraculous on that account. It's really sad to see it go away, but I don't know, I kind of like starting something new. That account is also called Miraculously Lizzie. And then of course, this year, specifically June 1st of this year, is the newest edition of the collection of accounts that I have, and it is Miraculous University, the podcast. I still can't believe I'm sitting here and like recording an episode, just because, like I said, I've been planning it for so long. Crazy. Anyway, so yeah, that's the podcast. Make sure you guys subscribe. It's gonna be a lot of fun. So, okay, first of all, you have to get to know me. You have to get to know your host or professor or teacher, whatever you want to call me. So I am currently 18 years old. I actually just graduated high school like 2 weeks ago. I think it might be about 3 weeks by the time you see this video. My birthday is also October 28th, 2006. So yeah, I'm also a Scorpio. And I once saw this video that was saying like different Miraculous characters as different zodiac signs, and Felix was Scorpio, and I was like, yes, because that is literally the most accurate thing I've seen. Anyway, if you know me, you know that like my personality, it's like slightly different from Felix's, but like at the end of the day, I have his exact personality. Same with Kagami. I'm like a mix of both of them. Anyway, some other facts about me. I've been watching Miraculous since summer of 2020, so that's when I was first introduced to the show, although I did know about Miraculous before that. I actually don't even know when I found out about Miraculous. If I'm being honest, I just feel like Miraculous is just something that I've always known about, but I didn't actually get into it and I didn't actually start watching it until 2020. My baby cousin got me into watching it. He's the cutest. Oh my gosh. Okay. Anyway, I say baby cousin, but he wasn't even a baby at the time that he got me into the show, and he's definitely not a baby now, but he's still a baby in my head, so yeah. Anyway, yeah, like I said, I'm a content creator, and I've been one for 4 years, but I've only been a Zag influencer for about 2 years, which is still a lot of time. I still can't believe that it's been that long. My favorite ship is Adrianette. Kagami, of course, is my favorite character. If you know me at all, you probably know that. I am a Feeligami stan and defender wholeheartedly. Like, we're going to talk a lot about Felix and Kagami, but we're also going to talk a lot about Feeligami. I'll probably get into why later, but yeah, I absolutely love them. And that's something you're so going to quickly learn about this podcast. or it's something that you're gonna so easily and quickly learn about me through this podcast because we'll talk about them a lot. I'm also Senti obsessed. I always say I love the theory. It's not really a theory now because it's been confirmed, but just the idea of Sentis and how they work and like the Peacock Miraculous, literally my favorite thing in the world, if you couldn't tell already. Also, in the artwork I did for the podcast, Dusu is literally on my shoulder, and like that's the only Kwame that's portrayed. If that doesn't tell you everything you need to know about me, then I don't know what would. Oh, I also created something called the Senti Club hat. I feel like that's pretty niche, but if you've ever like randomly seen someone on TikTok have a profile picture that has something that says Senti Club, like it's a blue hat with a mux on it, and then it says Senti Club, that's actually something that I created. I actually think it's so funny because there have actually been a couple people who have Senti Club hats on, or at least like their profile picture has Senti Club hats on, and then they'll be like, wait, oh my gosh, you were the one that made this? I didn't know that. And that's what's insane to me, because like anyone that has the Senti Club hat, I just assume they got it from me or that they know it's mine. So the fact that it's reached people that don't even know me is kind of insane. Anyway, but yeah, just, if you ever see one of those hats, it came from me. I created it. Another point is I'm the fandom's Emma Agreste. That's probably quite controversial to say, but I swear I cannot post a single video without somebody being like, oh my gosh, you look like Adrian Marinette's daughter, or you look like you could be Emma Agreste. I also get, I look like I could be Adrian, or I could be Adrian's sister. I get told I look like Felix, or Emily. I've also gotten Emily. So like basically any kind of variation of Adrian, I feel like I get called. I don't know. I see it sometimes, but I don't know. Anyway, so yeah, that's just why I put that there. And my last point is I know too much about Miraculous, and I think that's why I'm qualified to have this podcast and like talk about these things. I just know too much. This podcast is basically me just sharing all of my unnecessary knowledge. Anyway, I'm also the creator of many theories. If you follow my AdriXNet channel, you've probably seen about 1 million, theories from me. If you follow me on TikTok, I don't post theories too much on TikTok, but I have been posting a lot recently, and some of the more popular ones that I've created recently is, first of all, the realization theory, and then also the Cat Blanc return theory. These are honestly some of my favorites, and bro, can you see that? I didn't get that. Could you try that again? Siri, I wasn't talking to you.
I didn't get that. Could you try again?
I'm not talking to you.
Okay.
Thank you. Girl, it wasn't that hard. Anyway, what was I even saying? Yeah, these, I guess, are just some of the theories that I've created. I don't think we're going to dive too deeply into theories. I mean, we may make a few episodes about theories, but for the most part, we won't dive into theories too much. But yeah, I just thought I would kind of show you that. I feel like the realization theory is something that's becoming a lot bigger of a thing. So anyway, just wanted to let y'all know that that's actually mine. Another big point for me, at least, specifically kind of when it comes to this podcast, is that I love music. Music girl at heart, truly. Here are some of the artists that I love. If you're just listening to this, we have Chase Atlantic, One Direction, The Neighborhood, Always Never. We have Somber, Conan Gray, Harry Styles, Louis Tomlinson, Sabrina Carpenter, Billie Eilish, and Olivia Rodrigo. Obviously, those are only like a couple of the many artists that I love. I think my favorites on here are Conan and Harry Styles. And favorite band is Chase Atlantic. Those are like my top artists. Literally every single year on Spotify, they're like at the very top. It usually goes Chase Atlantic, Conan Gray, and then Harry Styles. But yeah, so why that's so important is that I correlate basically everything to certain songs or artists, and I do it specifically with Miraculous. I do it with a lot of things, but especially Miraculous. There's always songs that I correlate to like different ships or different characters or different episodes. Anyway, that's something we're probably going to talk a lot about on this podcast. We're probably going to dive into, different songs and different artists that I think fit Miraculous. Specifically, for example, Conan Gray is actually coming out with a new album, Wishbone. I'm pretty sure on August 15th. He's also releasing a song on Friday, which actually, it's probably already out. Yeah, no, it is out. But yeah, so when his album comes out, or maybe even when his new song comes out, I'm probably going to make an episode, or maybe not make an episode, but have an episode of the podcast where we kind of talk about his music and how I think it correlates to Miraculous, and just like diving into that, because that's something that I really love doing. And yeah, I don't know if like correlating stuff to music is something you guys do, or if hearing about how different songs correlate to Miraculous is something that you're interested in, but I just love it, so I really want to talk about those kinds of things. Moving on though, even though those are like my favorite artists, 80s is actually my favorite genre. I have an oldies playlist where it's not just 80s, but there is a lot of 80s, and it's probably like my most listened to playlist because all of the songs are absolutely amazing. These are a couple of my favorite songs. We have This Is Love by Survivor, Faithfully by Journey. We have Into the Night by Benny Mardons, I don't know. Anyway, and then also there's Won't Hold You Back, which if you know, you know. And if you don't know, screams an Adrianette dancing song. And that's all I'll say. But anyway, yeah. Like I said, a lot of this stuff will be correlated to Miraculous, and I feel like you'll see probably a lot of 80s music when we're kind of correlating different characters or plots or whatever of Miraculous. Wait, to Miraculous is what I mean. Correlating different music. I don't know what I'm saying. Okay, moving on. Speaking of the podcast, enough about me and my love of all of the different things and my love for music. Let's talk about the podcast. So, first of all, I've actually wanted a podcast for so long. Like, I know I said that the idea of this podcast came about in April, but I've wanted a podcast much longer than that, specifically about Miraculous, because like literally that's the only thing that I could sit down and talk about for hours on end. But I feel like Miraculous podcasts aren't really a thing, and I know they're out there, right? I know they exist, but I just feel like either they were a thing at one point and then people just stopped posting, or they just don't really ever post episodes. And even the ones that do post episodes, like there's very few of those accounts. So it just seems like it wasn't kind of a thing that the Miraculous fandom has broken into. Like YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, those are all platforms that Miraculous has broken into. But I feel like the podcast space is not something at all that the Miraculous fandom has broken into. So I just felt really scared to do something like that, only because I was like, I don't think anyone would listen to this. However, you guys made me delusional and you told me that I should start one. So here we are. Basically, I just been posting more analysis videos or theory videos recently, and I've had a lot of people being like, oh, I could listen to you for hours, or oh, you should start a podcast or something. And then a couple of my friends have also said that I needed to start a podcast. So I was like, I really wanted to do this, so I guess now I have to. And here we are. So yeah, I don't know how well this is gonna do, but I hope it will go somewhere. And who knows, maybe Miraculous podcasts will be more of a thing after this. That's actually just so delusional of me to say that, as if I could start a trend. Moving along though, my next point is kind of just about the name in general. I actually came up with the name Miraculous University ages ago, like long before we ever started planning this podcast. I actually don't even know when, but I just remember I thought of the name Miraculous University and I was like, oh, that would be a good podcast name. And so when we got to a point where I actually wanted to start, actually doing a podcast, I was like, yep, this is the name. I didn't even have to think about it. Didn't even have to, compare different options. I just knew that instantly this was going to be the name. It was perfect because even before I wanted to start a podcast, I already knew what I wanted the podcast to be about. And then when I actually decided to start a podcast, what I wanted to do with it was kind of established. And I just felt that Miraculous University fit it so well because kind of the idea of the podcast is just to teach people things. We're going to get into that in a little bit, but yeah, it's going to be very school-esque. And so I was like, having a school name is so perfect. Also, another thing about this is that it is a solo podcast. I assume a lot of you guys know that, especially with all of the marketing and stuff. It was just me. But I posted a little questions thing on my Instagram story a while ago, and I was just being like, what do you guys think this podcast, what do you think this project that I'm working on is about? And a couple people were like, oh my gosh, it's a partnership with a bunch of other influencers. And I think it's just because when I posted the announcement to the announcement, a lot of my influencer friends were reposting it. And so I think people just kind of thought that it was a collective thing. So anyway, if there's anybody out there that still kind of thinks that, I just wanted to clarify that it is just going to be me, myself, and I talking to a camera to you guys. However, we may have guests every so often. I'm not entirely sure who or when, but every once in a while I may bring a guest on. Moving on. Oh, okay, here. Next is kind of what I was talking about earlier about what the podcast is. So basically, the goal of this podcast is just to teach miraculous topics, specifically all of the topics that are misunderstood or overlooked in the fandom. Senties. Truly, though, I'm not even gonna lie, like, sentience is probably gonna be one of the biggest topics on this podcast because the amount of misinformation in terms of sentience is absolutely crazy. I feel like not a lot of people understand what a senti is and how it works and how human sentis work and how the Peacock Miraculous works and how controlling sentis works and how creating and destroying and just all of the things, right? They don't really understand how sentis work. And I feel like that's probably gonna be one of the biggest topics in terms of this podcast for sure. Like, we are going to nail it in the coffin about sentis. I hope, like, genuinely, if there's one thing that you get out of this podcast, it is how sentis work, how the Peacock Miraculous works. That is all I want. That is all I need in life. Okay? Anyway. I also want to talk not only about like the different topics that are like misunderstood, but I also want to talk about the different characters and the ships that are misunderstood. Philogamy. Not even kidding. Like, Philogamy, Felix, and Kagami are probably also going to be very big, like, staple points of this podcast for sure. And my camera's about to die. BRB. We're back. Honestly, can't lie. I did not think that I was going to yap long enough for, like, my battery to run out of power. Clearly, this first podcast episode is going to be a lot longer than I thought it was going to be. Anyway, okay, I don't remember what I was talking about. I think we're talking about Philogamy. Yeah, Felix and Kagami and Philogamy is just going to be something that we're going to talk about a lot on this podcast because, like I said, this podcast is about kind of like talking about all the topics and things that are like quite misunderstood in terms of the fandom. So that's definitely something we're going to highlight quite a lot. But we'll probably talk about a lot of other characters. Don't worry. This podcast is not just about sentis. It's not just about Philogamy or Felix or Kagami. It's about everything Miraculous related. Okay? Don't worry. Don't worry. Also would just like to say that this podcast is definitely very like English class style coded. Like, think of your English class and that's kind of, actually no, okay, let me rephrase that. It's an English class in the way that we're kind of diving into these topics, right? The way that we're kind of looking into these things. Like, we're going to be diving into the deeper themes and topics that are portrayed in the show, kind of like how you would in an English class, right? You don't just take all of the literature, all of the books, everything. Like, you don't ever just take it at face value. You always dive into the deeper themes and metaphors and topics and discussions and themes, blah, 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 blah. I think I said themes twice, but you know what I mean. That is kind of what I want for this podcast, is not to just be like, this is what's shown, that's that. It's like, there's something deeper, right? I always like to use representation as a good example. Like, there was a lot of stuff that was portrayed, right? But the thing is what was shown wasn't just what it was, right? There was a lot of deeper things right there. And I feel like the bunny being ripped up is probably a good example of that because yes, it was a physical bunny that Colt ripped up, but there was a lot of symbolism of that, right? We're not going to dive into like what the bunny represented because that's a whole other topic, but it wasn't about the bunny, right? Almost everything in that episode wasn't exactly about what was portrayed. And I feel like that's how we're going to kind of look at the whole entire show. We're going to take all of these topics and themes and stuff, and we're going to just dive into them and see what like the bigger picture is. We're probably also going to be highlighting a lot of topics of like mental health, trauma, AB use. I can't say the full word because, you know, YouTube, but that failure, being a villain, being a hero, like all of those like bigger ideas and topics. And then we're also going to be taking like all of those different topics and we're going to make real world connections to them. Literally exactly how like an English class works. Anytime you have like a book or some kind of story and you write a thematic essay about it, they're always like real world connection. And that's exactly what this podcast is. Because honestly, in my opinion, if you're going to learn something, you have to be able to apply it into your life. Or maybe not your life, but just apply it to the real world, right? Because the whole show is fictional, but there's a lot of like things that you can learn about it. And there's a lot of things that you can apply, right, into your own life. So that's kind of the things that I want to talk about and focus on. Obviously, though, we're still going to keep this podcast quite lighthearted and fun. It's not going to be very, like, lecture-y because I'm just not that kind of... Well, it kind of is lecture-y because I'm just talking to you. But we're going to have a lot more fun, right? It's going to be a lot more lighthearted. You know, it's... I guess just think of the way that I talk in, like, my reaction videos. And that's kind of exactly what this podcast is going to be. It's just a little bit more long form. And obviously, we're not actually reacting to any kind of, like, episode or anything. So, yeah, we do have a school theme, but it's not going to be boring. anything like school. I promise. One thing I also really wanted to highlight about this podcast is that it is going to be an actual podcast format. And what I mean by that is sometimes people will make just like normal videos. Like think about the kind of videos that I post on my Age or Accent channel. Sometimes people would take those videos, but just like slap the name podcast on them. And that's not what I'm going to be doing. That's not what this podcast is. And I'm not saying there's necessarily anything wrong with doing that. It's just like doing that isn't necessarily like actually a podcast format. And I want to keep this as an actual podcast format. If you couldn't already tell with like the set and everything here. Also, there's going to be a lot of minimal editing and stuff. Obviously, this podcast is mainly more meant for just listening. So obviously you can see me, right? If you're watching on YouTube. But I mean, technically this podcast is more meant for like Spotify or something. So that's that. Also, another really big point is that this is going to be more long form. Like the length is going to be more of like an actual podcast. So I'm going to try to keep each episode between 30 and an hour, like hour and 30, but low key, we could end up talking much longer than that. I'm going to be completely honest with you. I'm going to be so blunt right now. They're probably going to end up being longer because I can sit and yap for hours. And I think this video is probably proof of that because I was only planning on this video being like 10 minutes long. I can guarantee you it's going to be much longer than that. Anyway, my point is I can just sit here and yap for so long. And so I'm just going to talk until I have all of the points that I want to make. And however long it is, that's however long it's going to be. It could be maybe less than 30 minutes or it could be way longer than an hour and a half. But I feel like typically the usual podcast length is about an hour. So we'll try to keep it there, but you never know. Also, another thing is that episode suggestions are always welcome. So if there's any kind of topic that you want me to discuss, always let me know. I may not always talk about those kinds of things. It really just depends if, I personally have a lot to say about it and if I think it's going to be, like if what we're talking about is going to end up being long enough for it to be a podcast episode. But yeah, I would just always give any kind of suggestions, there we go, that you have because I'm low-key willing to talk about anything and everything. Also, the last main key point about this podcast that I wanted to bring up is the uploading schedule because I know that's probably going to be a question. I have no idea. I'm going to be completely blunt. I really actually have no idea. I want to say one a week, but knowing me, I just know that that's probably not possible, especially with all of the other channels and all of the other content that I do. I don't know. We're just going to post whenever, but I don't know. I am really excited about this podcast, so I feel like we're probably going to upload quite a lot. I don't know. Guys, don't take anything I say literally when it comes to uploading schedules because we all know I absolutely suck at that. I'm really sorry. I really wish that I could keep to a schedule, but I just genuinely can't. So I'm so sorry about that. Hope you don't mind. But yeah, we're just gonna go with it and see how it works and see how it flows. Anyway, lastly, just wanted to say we are on Spotify. Actually, not yet. We're not on Spotify yet. And the reason why is because you have to actually upload an episode before you can publish your podcast. So I have to wait until this video launches to be able to upload my first episode. And I think it has to be approved by by Spotify. I think it's this whole process. And I've never uploaded anything to Spotify yet. So by the time you're seeing this, it may not be out. But when we upload the next episode, I'll probably tell you guys if it's actually out or not. I assume it will be out, but you never know. But I did just want to tell you guys that it is in fact on Spotify, or at least it will be. So yeah, when I say it's going to be actually a podcast format, I mean that. Y'all will be able to search up Miraculous University on Spotify and you can listen to it there. So if you're cleaning or you're working or cooking or just doing anything that, you kind of want to listen to something while you're doing it and you want it to be miraculous related, there you go. You're very welcome. Here's Miraculous University. Like I said, you can search up Miraculous University on Spotify, or you can also just go to the link in the description. Like I said, once we have it published, the link will actually be there. But if it's not there, then it's not up yet. But if it is there, it's up. And you guys can click on it and you can go follow and you guys can go listen to the episodes there. So basically, that is the end of me. But now it's your guys' turn. So you know about me, you know about the podcast, and now it's time for us to learn about you. Yep. We're going true first day of school fashion here. It's time for icebreakers. We all love them, don't we? I just want you guys to introduce yourself. in the comments in any kind of way you want. You can say whatever you want, do whatever you want. I don't care. But I do want you guys to give us just like one random fun fact about yourself. It could literally be anything. It could be miraculous related, or it could just be like personally related. Doesn't really matter. We're just all trying to like build a community here and get to know each other. So not only do you guys want to get to know me, but you also want to get to know your classmates. So you gotta have a little discussion in the comments. If you want, you can also just post a question, like attach it to your comment of something like a question for me, or it can just be a like general question that everybody else can answer, so we can have, you know, different conversations in the comments. I don't know, I'm just trying to have fun. I'm literally just trying to have fun. Okay, anyway. So yeah, that is basically the end of my introduction. I think we basically went over everything. We went over me, we went over the podcast. If you do have any other questions about the podcast, like what it's going to be about, what's going on, etc., feel free to let me know, because I'm like trying to make this podcast and like my point for the podcast super clear. I don't know if I did that 100%, but I hope I did. Anyway, lastly though, before I leave you guys, I genuinely could not make an introduction video without giving you guys a tour of my set. Also, a lot of my teachers in school will always give me a tour, or not just me, but like the class, a tour of their classroom on the first day of school. So I thought that that was fitting. So I just want to give you guys a little bit of a tour of the set, because I'm also really happy with this. I think it's so cute. So yeah, starting with my desk on the left, or maybe it's the right for you. It's left for me, but I think it's right for you. Okay, I don't know. Anyway, we have this phone. You cannot tell me this isn't the funnest thing ever. I'm obsessed. I've always wanted a phone like this, and I know like phones aren't really that big of a thing when it comes to classrooms, but I wanted it and I needed an excuse to buy one, so here we are. Right next to it, I also have this little adorable plaid mug. This is from the Zag store, and I am absolutely obsessed. I also have a Cat Noir one. I'm obsessed. Oh, it's so cute. Anyway, it doesn't have anything in it now, but it probably will when we actually get to the episodes. I also have this jar of writing utensils, because trying to go for school vibes here, okay? Then on this side, right side for me, maybe left side for you, I don't know. I first have my Lady Noir joy lamp, which is my favorite thing in the world. I actually got it 3 years ago. I got it in 2021. Insane. This is like my most prized possession. Sometimes I forget I have it, but I literally remembered that I had it when I was making the set for this, and I was like, yep, it's going in here. I also have these 2 random bubble candles. I didn't buy this specifically for the set. I just had it in my room, and I was like, might as well use it. So I did. And then in between it, oh my gosh, I have the cutest little black cat figurine. It's really tiny, so it's probably hard to see, but I am so in love with this. Like, oh my gosh, it's so cute. It's kind of in that like playing position where it has its like paws on the ground and its head on the ground, but its like butt is sticking up. It's literally so adorable. And then I also have this cute little gold frame. Inside of it, it just has kind of like my, not necessarily my logo, but it has just me in it. It's the same drawing that I used for the profile picture. And then up top, it just says Miraculous University with Miraculously Lizzie. So that's what's inside. I really like it. But this is what I love most about it. So it's in a gold frame, but the gold frame is a peacock. As I was saying earlier, I'm obsessed with the Peacock Miraculous and just peacocks in general. And I thought that this was so beautiful. So it has a peacock head on the top, and then along the side is like the peacock feathers, and it's just such a gorgeous design. Plus, one thing that I didn't talk about in the slideshow is kind of like the theme that I have for the podcast. Like aesthetically, the theme, not like the actual theme, we already talked about that. But the theme is Tiki, Plag, and Dusu. So like red, black, white, and then pops of blue, but it's kind of all of those things, but with like tiny little gold detailing. So if you look at my logo, which I have it right here, you'll see it says Miraculous University Podcast, but right on the Miraculous, there's 2 little gold peacock feathers. And I just added that because, like I said, the main colors are red, black, white, blue, but just like a little bit of gold detailing, gold accents, which is why you'll see a little bit of gold throughout the set. I just thought it added a little something. And anyway, because of the little gold peacock feathers on the logo, I thought that this frame was literally so perfect. Anyway, that's enough about that. Oh, I also just have my MacBook and of course my microphone. And then if we take it to the left side or the right side for you, I don't know. Right here, you guys are probably just seeing what's on my MacBook screen, but it's actually just a green screen that I made obviously within this podcast, there's going to be a lot of stuff that I'm going to be showing you. There was obviously a presentation for this episode, and there's probably going to be presentations for other episodes too. So I just wanted to be able to have a way to show you guys what I'm looking at. So we have this, and then above it is probably one of my favorite parts of this. I'm going to keep saying that with like every tiny little thing that's in this podcast set, but I really do love this. So I kind of went for like a school teacher meets detective vibes. So the corkboard is very school teacher, and I have like the perimeter, which is also very school vibes, but then I just have a bunch of pictures, and then each picture is tied in some kind of way with red string. I just really loved that. And the pictures are all of stuff that I just personally love. So in the middle is the Miraculous University Podcast logo, and then we have Feeligami, Kagami, we have Lila, also Lila, Ladybug, and Cat Noir, but specifically Ladybug and Cat Noir from Illustrator. And these two, if you guys know anything about the realization theory, you know that these two are very significant, so that's why they're up there. We also have Emily and Adrian, Natalie, Gabriel, and Mark Daniel, and we have Adrianette. Literally just all of my favorite things combined. And there will probably be episodes where we talk about like some of the specific stuff that are on the board, and I'll probably talk more in depth of why I put them up there and what's connecting to what and why it's connecting to that. Behind the board, I have peacock feathers because obviously, I've already talked so much about how I love the Peacock Miraculous, so there's that detailing. Also, I love the Senties, and obviously, peacock feathers were a really big part of representation to, like, represent the fact that they'd used a Miraculous to create Adrian and Felix, so that's why they're there, and that's why I kind of have them fanned out like that. I took inspo from representation, but above it, I have a little shadow box, and it just has the first Miraculous manga, and then 2 little roses. I made this ages ago, and I was never able to display it, so when I was making the set, I was like, yep, it's going in here because I need a way to use it, or a reason to use it, I guess. And then right above my head is the cutest little moon cat little decor thingy. I don't know how to describe it, but it's literally so cute. It has a purple moon, which is so Marishat coded, and then obviously the cat is reaching for the star. I'm in love with it. I'm so in love with it. And then right behind me, I'll get up for this, we just have a bunch of gold butterflies flying upwards. Like I kind of already mentioned, gold detailing is a really big part of this podcast, so I just wanted to add something like that, and butterflies are perfect because, you know, Shadow Moth, Hawk Moth, whatever, millions of names. Cerise, no, Chrysalis, that's her name. Anyway, yeah, off to the side, we have this. This is a Black Cat Knowledge poster, which I thought was perfect because Black Cat, Miraculous, but also the Knowledge, like, University. I thought it was perfect. To the right of that poster, we have this, which this is just like a silly little detail that I added in, but it's essentially just like a fake master's degree for Miraculous University. I made it for myself because, you know, teachers, they always have their degrees on display, so of course I had to add something like that. So it just says Certificate of Completion. This certificate is presented to Lizzie Ashley for completing the master's degree in Miraculous Ladybug held on 17 January 2021. And as I was saying earlier on in this video, the reason why I picked that date is because that's when I first started my Miraculous account. So there's that. And then I have like the Miraculous University like school logo up there. And yeah, I don't know, I just thought it was cute and it's silly. I don't know, I liked it. So that's there. And then on the first shelf, we have the Lady Noir dolls. We have this Tiki plushie. We also have that like Eiffel Tower figurine, and then you can't really see it, but we have the ladybug earrings. And then I also just have this cute little like crochet plant thing. It's a cute little rainbow and it's a heart. I thought it was so cute. And then very lastly, on this other shelf, we have this plushie of Plag, one of the Miracle Box, and then we have this like Dusu squishy thingy. And then I also have the plushie of Dusu, which is so cute. I'm so obsessed. Dusu is my favorite Kwami, and for the longest time I had like no merch for Dusu, so now I finally have stuff. Anyway, very lastly, on this other wall, I just have this whiteboard. I don't know if we're really going to use it much, but I don't know, teachers always have whiteboards, and I have a whiteboard that I never use, so just thought I'd put it up here. I don't know, maybe we'll use it to explain stuff sometimes. Or maybe I'll just use it to do like announcements on, like maybe whatever our episode is about, like the title of it will be up there or something. Like right up there I have the announcement written because this is the announcement for the podcast. So I don't really know what we're gonna do with it, but yeah. Oh, also, I have 2 little stickers that I got from Zag. They sent me a package like a year or 2 ago, and it just had some stickers in it, and I've kept all of them, so I decided to put 2 of them up there. I think we went over everything. I think that was everything in the set. I don't know, I'm actually really happy with how it turned out. I feel like it's a little chaotic, but I don't know, I think it's it's better that way. It's kind of cute. It like gives you something to look at. So we're leaving it. Anyway, with that being said, that concludes our first day of school. I hope you guys had a fun day. I hope you guys enjoyed this time that we spent together, and I hope you guys are really excited to join this school and continue on. And yeah, like I said, if you guys have any suggestions for any kind of episodes, or if there's any kind of topic you want me to talk about, let me know, because I'm so open to talking about literally anything and everything. I think that's literally everything I have to say. I'm like genuinely trying to think if there's anything, but I can't. Thank you for everything. Thank you for everyone that has subscribed, or like I was talking about earlier, anyone who did the like application for this. I really hope that you guys have had a lot of fun with like all of the hinting and all of just like the whole journey to get to this point. And I hope you guys will be really interested and will have a lot of fun while you're in this school, aka just listening to the podcast. Anyway, I will go now, and I hope to see you guys soon. Peace out. I need to come up with like a better outro.